Live. It is Monday, May 13th. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined as always by my co-host of the Central Valley, California, Stateless Patriot. Talk to me, Stat Pat. How are you?
Good. Body's beaten up because of a show I went to last night. It was very brutal, but it's like the gym but more extreme in a way.
Have you been watching any of the NBA or NHL playoffs?
No. What would be like? Because I don't have like cable or anything like that. So unless it's like being streamed on YouTube or Max.
I can give you. I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link. I can hook you up with how to be able to watch. There's some Reddit stuff going on that you might not like to know about. Anyway, I'm red hot here with two viewers, so I don't know if they want to hear us bullshit about sports. But what do you guys want to talk about? Say something in the chat. We need more love in the chat.
Let us know.
While you're at it, let people know you're watching. This is the Left Coast Live. Let's talk about the Left Coast in general. Where do you think California is represented in pop culture in an accurate way? I would say this, that Californians struggle to comprehend what's going on outside the rest of the country, outside of California, and what's going on in the rest of the country.
Yeah, I would basically agree. I think, and because I've talked about it before, I think California in general should lead the way on all sorts of issues, whether it's cultural, social, or political. I think we've for the longest time we've gotten it right, but I feel like the only stagnation that's really unfortunate and unfortunately too prominent as well is just the Democratic Party dynamic here. It's very much elitism. It's very much insiderism. It's very much country club-esque, But apart from that, like the people itself, like politically, like we're probably the most progressive state, culturally speaking. I would argue.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how things break out for the country in the rest of the year, and how if California plays a big, important role in it. I'm not optimistic considering the kind of neoliberals that we have coming out of California on a national stage. I think for today's episode, I think we might want to get in to some current events, because I haven't actually even checked out the details on this, but I would love to know. We should do some Trump stuff, because we haven't done much Trump stuff in a while. So here we go. Ready? This is classic mainstream media talking about with Trump.
Preparing Michael Cohen for this moment. He's the witness that prosecutors need to directly tie Trump to the payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
NBC's Yasmin Vasugian is outside the courthouse. Also with us, our legal panel for the hour, former prosecutor Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, former prosecutor and civil rights attorney Charles Coleman, and criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Salan. Thank you all for joining us. Let's go to Yasmin first. What is the latest inside that courtroom as Michael Cohen's testimony begins?
We're getting some demeanor notes, guys, as to how Michael Cohen is interacting with the prosecution when answering his questions. Also, kind of some color from inside the courtroom when Michael Cohen was asked to identify the defendant, Donald J. Trump, in which I've explained this before. They're unable to see when you're on the witness end, unable to see the defense table. So he had to stand up, kind of peer around the defense, around kind of the 2 feet of wood lip that stands between him and the defense table to identify Donald J. Trump. We're hearing from inside the courtroom when it comes to his demeanor. He's asking and answering these questions pretty quickly, in that he's sticking with the points. He's not veering off of subjects. He is staying with kind of the answers that he is being asked. That is some color from inside the courtroom when it comes to Lisa Rubin. They talked about the history between Michael Cohen and Donald J. Trump, how it was he came to work for the Trump Organization. He was introduced to the Trump Organization through Don Jr. back in 2007. also with investment properties in Trump International Tower. He was asked to work on some contracts for Donald Trump in which the bill would amount up to $100,000. He was asked if, in fact, he was paid $100,000. He said no, but he was subsequently then offered a job for $375,000 plus bonuses as well. So they're kind of walking through the history here between both Michael Cohen and Donald J. Trump. Let me just read one interaction as well, if I can, guys. Cohen asked, the first was so that he knew I was on it. I was doing what he had asked. This was with regards to questions about whether or not he interacted with the media when it came to Donald J. Trump. The second was building to obtain credit, so he understood I was accomplishing what he wanted. How did that make you feel? He said, like I was on top of the world, establishing the loyalty and the long-standing relationship between Donald J. Trump and Michael Cohen, guys.
Wow. So that's a whole lot of nothing as far as I could tell. Uh-oh, did we lose you? I lost your audio.
Oh, yeah, there's not really much that's going to come out of this for now. For one, it's just starting, and for two, like, how essential is Cohen to this trial in particular? Like, what exactly is he going to reveal that they haven't figured out already?
I think law these days, in terms of putting billionaires in jail, comes down, and even just well-connected and powerful people in general in jail, comes down to mountains of evidence. If you do not have mountains of evidence to destroy their impeccable legal team, then you're going to get outsmarted. You got to outgun them with evidence. So I think it's just redundancy. I think it's just to make sure they cross all their T's and dot all their I's. And you have to remember, the Trump organization itself, in terms of the people who knew the inner operations, was not that many. It was only like 20, 25 people at most. Not even, probably.
Yeah, not to mention he always had he had a revolving door of people, like, constantly throughout his term, like, as well. So it's like there's so many names that came through here and there. It's like it makes sense that it's taking this long for these trials to move along, because there's so many people that they have to talk to and go through, and just like cross examine to make sure everything's lining up, and like figure out who's keeping up with the truth, who's reinforcing whose experience and testimonies and whatnot. So yeah, it's just a damn shame that, like, this is going, like, well into the election when it's super consequential. Oh yeah, this.
Tell you what's not inconsequential.
Comedian Jerry Seinfeld today taking the stage at Duke University, where he was scheduled to deliver the commencement address and receive an honorary degree. Soon after he was introduced, students walked out, some waving palms after weeks of protests at colleges nationwide against the Israel-Hamas war. Seinfeld later delivered.
Use your privilege. I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian.
The sitcom creator taking to Instagram after the Hamas attack on Israel October 7th, stating in part, "I will always stand with Israel and the Jewish people." Later visiting Tel Aviv. The university saying in part, "We respect the right
like come on, dude,
of everyone at Duke to express their views peacefully." It's at graduations across the country. At UC Berkeley, the student body president's speech was interrupted by chants.
This wouldn't be Berkeley without a protest, so I get it.
In Wisconsin, a handful of students turned their backs on the chancellor, some wearing graduation caps with messages like Free Palestine. And at the University of Texas, dozens protested on campus after the ceremony concluded. The tension on campus is nationwide, coming to a boiling point, just as universities and colleges break for the summer. Elwin Lopez, NBC News.
Thanks for watching.
So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about there, I think.
Oh, yes,
I'm glad
we
they
do.
finished up and talked about the other protests there. Because there's that. Well, you go ahead and give me your reaction first. I always kind of lead off. You go ahead.
Yeah,
Give us your reaction to that real quick.
This really is like any young person you talk to that's even remotely got a head on their shoulders and actually like cares about their future and knows what they're talking about in general. Someone that you can like, people that you can engage with and you feel like you're actually talking to someone and not just a mindless drone. Like, they are all in tune with this. They are all in tune with what's going on in Gaza. They are in tune with the trends and the breaking news and everything, all the developments. When I went to my concert last night, I saw Knocked Loose in San Francisco, and one of the opening bands was a band called Show Me the Body, and right as his microphone disconnected, but he says, "I believe in free Palestine," and like you can tell that's what he said, even though it's like right when it cut out. And I swear that was the biggest crowd reaction out of any of the bands all night. Like, every single person in that theater screamed and cheered in support. Like, it's pronounced, you know. And this is a crowd of, you know, relatively young people in their 20s and 30s, like, because these are younger bands and whatnot. It's like everyone who even like remotely gives a shit is in tune with this and sees it for what it is and sees what's happening, is in full support of these protests. It's very, very pronounced and widespread. So this is really encouraging to see. Just as like, especially the more media coverage of it that we get.
Psalm 8:3, out of the mouths of babes and infants you have perfected praise because of your enemies, so that you may destroy the enemy and the revenger. Wow. So they were right, dude. All those Bible beaters right there. Listen to the student body presidents and the protesters at all these colleges and universities, because that's what that text is trying to tell you, that the morality of the youth is going to go against the established order, right? The established order is that Israel is always the victim and that Israel is never the aggressor.
Right.
Well, and that's not, and if you actually know your history, you realize that that's not true.
Right.
But that is the memory, that is the public memory of the situation. So it seems to me like these student protests are gonna grow. I mean, well, it's too bad we're getting. I was gonna say, if there are any more commandments, you're just gonna see more of this. It'll take a breather for this summer, because everyone's gonna go away for the summer. But it represents a voting contingent. You asked, what is this going to affect? I keep thinking about your question. How is this going to affect the election? I mean, I don't really know that it will, because these voters, this voting category usually doesn't show up, and Biden's not exactly the kind of candidate that's going to get the youth vote to show up. This is going to be another good enough election. This is not going to be a blowout election like we all want it to be, like it was last time, right? We know it's going to be last time was a blowout, 7 million vote difference, right?
Yeah. I mean, it could have been better on the electoral college
That's a
side,
blowout for president.
No, of course. Yeah, without a doubt. It's just too bad that we have the fucking electoral college in place, which should be abolished. But
and I don't see why there aren't more state-specific polls more regularly. I would expect state-specific polls for Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia at least once a month, preferably every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like the broad polls that are national that tally overall support of Israel, or that the ones that ask whether or not you think Israel is committing genocide. I mean those are fine, those work, but like if they can be done at a more stateside level, especially in the swing states, that can give us a better understanding, because like it fucking sucks, but ultimately it does come down to where people lie in the swing states. Like it's going to come down to Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe Nevada and Georgia. Who knows there? Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona, but not
sucks.
so much. Arizona's probably going back red, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because that was the closest of the big five.
Right. I mean, they're not really running things very good there, because they especially because of the Roe v. Wade thing. I think Arizona might have actually a chance of shifting blue, specifically because of the 1864 law that they used to justify their abortion ban in the state, or something like that.
Right.
Or
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that one it's gonna be interesting, but like ultimately,
yeah, it's a good point. Those grievance kind of moments, those
Yeah.
kind of "fu," like you conservatives went too far this time, kind of voter will show up when those kinds of ththings happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially going to matter in those swing states. But like, and ultimately, what comes down to as well is like, yeah, like you're gonna have to wait until next semester to like start up these protests again, especially if things don't change, because Israel is literally like evacuating Rafah right now, or at least like a chunk of it, and subsequently bombing the fucking evacuation routes. It's going to we'll have to see, like ultimately, but like the young people in general, the voting blocks, convincing non-voters and young voters to get out and vote, when like a lot of them are just like so staunchly like, fuck no, we're not voting Biden. When
they don't have they're gonna do, they're voting for RFK Jr., but he's even worse on Israel, right?
Yeah, or more likely they'll just sit
we don't
out.
have a single candidate. We don't have a single candidate of the big three that. I mean, there's Cornel West and there's Jill Stein. And
yeah, if
like,
anything,
come on.
if anything, like if people do go out and vote, it'll be for them. But I'm hoping that a lot of them, because like if a lot of these people are protesting and like against the genocide that's going on in Gaza, they probably understand the stakes of what is actually happening and our role in it. And I hope that a lot of them understand that Trump has gone on record saying that he would be far more lenient towards Israel. He's even come after Biden. He's taken shots at him because he thinks Biden is too
that's the
soft on
evangelical
Hamas.
vote.
Of course, he's pandering to them, and that but it still matters, because if he does take power again, that is he is signaling that he would be much worse than Biden on the issue, which isn't saying much, but given the people that Biden actually has around him, and the way that they're like just doing this giant balancing act, that very likely wouldn't be the case with a Trump cabinet, like a Trump second term. It would be we who fucking knows? We would probably even send U.S. troops there to help the IDF. We would wrap up all negotiations.
No, they would have limitless. They would be able to do whatever. they want.
Yeah. We would basically seize all progress that we've made with the neighboring countries in trying to wrangle Israel, so to speak. Long, tedious process, but also the attempts to the progress being made on incorporating a potential long-lasting peace, as well as a pathway to a two-state solution. I think that all that would be undone under Trump. Not to mention, Trump has gone on record saying that he is completely okay with more settlements in the West Bank, which is a violation of international law. So
he's got Netanyahu's back.
Yeah, no matter how you spin it, a Trump presidency would be worse. It's just the reality of the situation. As disgusting as it is, it would have like Biden would need to win a second term, and I hate having to say that, but it's it's
just fucked.
Yeah,
it's the real world,
it's all
man.
fucked. It's all completely fucked.
It's the darkness. It's hell on earth.
Yeah,
it's the darkness of the real world. This is not. This is, to put it in Christian terms, this is what we've done with free will. This is our sin, and this is our morality, and our refusal to.
Yeah, angels on
simply
the
acknowledge with all this modern media. It's like, how can you get over these videos? I mean, the one that, in a weird way, I mean, I've seen some really dark stuff, so I try to kind of block that out. But because it was just a simple physical building, I still resonates in my head, and I still can't stop thinking about it. It was when they destroyed the university. I was like, why?
No.
So you just want to eradicate them from the earth. You would nuke them if it didn't make it radioactive afterwards.
Literally,
you want them all extinguished. This is legitimately tribal warfare back in the day before there were even guns, kind of stuff.
Literally,
like, give me a break.
Literally,
give me a break. You want me to respect you?
No, of
you
course
think I'm
not.
ever going to respect you again?
No,
the rest of the world is like, fuck you until Netanyahu stands trial.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting from the international community.
Yeah, like the UN just voted like 143 countries down to 9 for that. I forget what the resolution was, but it was like open, like they were open to a Palestinian state, basically. Not voting for one, but like it was a resolution saying like we support a pathway to one. But yeah, how can you like have any respect for that? It's blatant. It's purposeful. It's a choice. And even right now, as we speak, and I love Bo, the Fifth Column, so much because he's so succinct in his foreign policy analysis. From what I understand, the U.S. is offering Israel intelligence on the whereabouts of remaining Hamas fighters and leaderships in leadership in the region. They are offering them that so that way they can use that to be more precise in their targeting. Now, if Israel rejects that, it's kind of a telltale sign, like they don't care. They're not going after Hamas. They're all about eradicating
Haven't
the
there
population.
been ceasefires, though, that they've turned down already?
Yes.
Haven't there been like 3
Exactly.
times where there were ceasefires offered and Israel's like, no, we're going to keep bombing you?
Yep. And the most recent one, Hamas, like openly, they accepted it. And I think our State Department, like Blinken, was even like, yeah, Hamas, this is like the sweetest deal ever. Like you'd be crazy to say no to this. And Hamas was like, yeah, like totally agree. And turns out Israel rejected it, and then the U.S. like, oh, this is the fault of Hamas because like, what sense does that make? And not long after they began bombing Israel, they began bombing Gaza again, particularly the Rafah region. Yeah, it's gross. It's disgusting. And not to mention the part about the U.S. sharing intelligence about the whereabouts of Hamas in the region. Not only would Israel rejecting that show like their intentions, but the U.S. could be like, oh well, we can we'll just use our pilots to precision strike these targets and whatnot. If you're going to have a problem with that. Or a problem with your fighters, with your pilots doing like making the strikes and whatnot. So if that gets rejected too, then there's no other conclusion to come to other than it is a choice on Israel's part to be careless with their strikes, not take into consideration any civilian losses or casualties whatsoever. It is all done on purpose for the
genocidal purposes.
Yeah, eradication, and even Israeli leadership. You can hear them. There are video clips of them admitting this. They want to make Gaza into they want it to become part of Israel. They don't want any Arab people there at all. They admit it. A lot of leadership admits it. The pundits in their media and whatnot, they are vile.
Say, let's watch some
in their rhetoric.
Let's watch some conservative coverage of this, because Biden did actually seem to be softening on this. I wonder if do you think progressives will ever get credit for being ahead of everyone on this one? Probably not.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham.
I did want to say,
Senator, your reaction.
Yeah, you mentioned dropping a nuke on Gaza. I forgot to mention this slimy fucking weasel doing a human impression. Lindsey Graham literally suggested that we nuke Gaza. This fucking demon. Let's see what he has to say.
Action of this.
Well, that was well done, Sean. Heartbroken in a way, because I know in Jerusalem tonight they're trying to figure out what do we do. The only reason they're not dancing in Iran is because they don't believe in dancing. If you're Sinwar in the tunnel, this is a good moment for you. But what does this mean to America? It changes the game in all the worst ways in the war on terror. Here's what Joe Biden is asking. He's asking the Israelis to turn the war over to him and Lloyd Austin. To my friends in Israel, don't do that. Fight without the weapons. Do not let Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin run this war. They will do for you what they've done for America. So my fear is that the hostage deal was hard. Now it's impossible. My fear is that Saudi Arabia, that was thinking about recognizing Israel, and I've been working with the Biden administration for a year to bring that deal about, they would have a hard time right now, if this continues, signing up with a defense agreement with Joe Biden and his team. Who in their right mind in Saudi Arabia would turn their national security over to Joe Biden? So this is heartbreaking. It's dangerous.
Really? Okay.
He doesn't say anything about how Reagan did it in the 80s. I don't know what he's like. There's precedent for this.
Yeah, or
precedent, or totally okay to do something like this.
Yeah, and even Trump offered to use U.S. troops to defend their oil fields or whatever the hell. It's like, and how exactly does Lindsey even know this? Like I mentioned in a recent stream, when Iran sent those thousands of drones towards Israeli airspace, they weren't just intercepted by Israeli pilots and jets and their Iron Dome and whatnot, but the UK was involved, the US was involved, and guess who else was involved? Saudi Arabia and Jordan.
Right.
So they probably have a stake in this, Lindsey.
It's pouring gasoline on a fire, and every problem we had in the Mideast just got worse. This is a nightmare for Israel, to be abandoned by their best friend in the world, and the only way you're going to change this is at the ballot box in November.
You know, I don't know what this means for Israel. I don't know what it means for every country in the region. I mean, look at what he's already done with Iran. Not only did he turn a blind eye to sanctions and allow the Iranians to sell oil and get rich, $100 billion plus, he was importing oil since March of 21 from Iran.
We have a say in that.
He gave a waiver to Iraq to give the mullahs $10 billion. He wanted to give them $6 billion in a ransom exchange. What part of Iran being the world's #1 state sponsor of terror is he not understanding? And what part of what happened to Israel on October 7th is he not understanding here?
Distraction.
No, I think he does. I think he doesn't understand, and that's the problem. October the 7th was the largest loss of life of Jewish people since the Holocaust. Yeah. They're surrounded by Iran, who wants to wipe out the Jewish state. Hamas says we'll do it again and again and again. Their charter is to destroy Israel, not to help the Palestinians. Then you got Hezbollah with 100,000.
I swear.
I can't do it.
No. I mean, have you read their charter, Lindsey, or are you just repeating conservative talking points? You're just...
He's such
he's gross.
So he's a closet. He's a closet case, right?
Yeah. No, he...
Yeah.
He doesn't believe a single word he's saying. He's just regurgitating talk. He's just like Ted Cruz. I don't know who's slimier, honestly. God, yeah, and they're like.
Well, Ted Cruz is definitely uglier, that's for sure. Ted Cruz is an easy read. Ted Cruz is like God is telling you to not want to go near this person. Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz, just by looking at him, you're like, God wants me to have nothing to do with this person.
Right.
That's what I think. I mean, he is just heinous. He is just. I mean, some people. Ben Shapiro. There's another one. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of working on this list. Like, ugly on the outside, ugly on the inside. Man, it applies in some cases. Yeah, all right, so that's the Fox News stuff for as much as I can stand it. I used to be able to. I used to think I could watch Fox News all the time and do like Fox News criticism, but it's so brutal. It's so brutal.
It's literally fractal wrongness. There are so many layers of wrong that just peeling apart like at it is like a futile effort, because like you have to start from like so many different positions, and it would take you forever just to like deconstruct how they're wrong, like why exactly they're wrong, and why the way they're thinking about shit and the way that they're approaching shit is just fucking incorrect.
Yeah, I know, but nobody listens to us, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
it's amazing. The tough part is when you run into these people, there's MAGA people in your real life, and in California, like I've said a lot of times, California is not so bad with the MAGA. We got a lot of anti-Trump conservatives though who still will vote for Trump and will vote for every other Republican that's on the ballot in California. So as much as, I mean, Kevin McCarthy's from California, as much as people like to think that, you know, California conservatives don't matter, I'm here to tell you they do.
Yeah.
And not just on a state level here, but on a national level. And it seems to me like if the U.S. is going to get out of this rut, or at least take a big giant leap forward, because we're kind of slowly but surely climbing up this muddy hill that Trump put us on, and we were sliding down bad with COVID. By the way, you realize that the seniors who are graduating this year, they were seniors when COVID hit in high school. They were seniors in high school and they went, and now they're seniors in college.
Yeah.
And now their graduations are with defined by protests.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, because there were even protests back then as well. Yeah.
It's honestly kind of a slow news day, because other than Cohen testifying, there's some polls here. Why don't I share this screen? Let me just go ahead and share New York Times. If the 2024 presidential election were held today, who would you vote for if the candidates were Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Now, Wisconsin is 45-47 in favor of Biden. Pennsylvania worries me because it's 44-47 in favor of Trump. That one's crazy. Arizona, right. Trump's up by 7. Michigan, he's up by 7. Georgia, he's up by 10. Nevada, he's up by 12.
I can't believe he has that big of a lead in Nevada, especially.
I don't know if I believe these numbers, but
I mean,
the fact that they're close.
Who's doing this poll?
Hold on. New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, Siena College, from April 28th to May 9th. A decent timeline. That was a long time. That was 4 years ago. So yeah, I mean that's a long time. That was like a 12-day poll
conducted. Yeah, I wonder how many participants. That's.
I don't know the end. Yeah, the end doesn't look like it. But there you go, man. So it might happen again. I mean, maybe it's what we deserve as a country. Honestly, maybe it's what we deserve. Maybe it's karmic justice for the colonialism upon which this country is founded.
It's like there's just such indifference, I think. You know, like it's just far too prominent of an issue. Just like the whole, just indifference in general. You know, because it's like, what can I do? Like, what's the point? Like that nobody nobody's listening to us. Like, our response to like the most abominable, abysmal, unspeakable atrocities being committed, like on camera and being published and broadcast all around the world on the internet. Like, it's just plain to see, and nothing's being done about it. It's just being excused or ignored. It's like, of course, like people are either going to be like non-responsive, or it's all so bleak.
Well, this is interesting because as bad as those presidential polls looked, these are the battleground Senate races in those states we just looked at. And other than Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all look pretty comfortable right now for the Democrats. A lot can change, of course, and Carrie Lake is a miserable candidate, so I'm not surprised she's losing.
Yeah, I heard that she was losing as well, and that's
Carrie Lake is evil. She's one of those dumbasses that thinks that's because she's like physically attractive, was on enough to be a TV news reporter, that she's so good with the camera that it doesn't matter that she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about when it comes to most, if not all, issues. Pennsylvania, I don't even know who David McCormick or Bob Casey are. Wisconsin, same deal.
I think great. If I'm not mistaken, I think Tammy Baldwin was a veteran and was disabled or something like that, or like was in a wheelchair, something like that. But I think she was even in the running for Biden's VP pick back in 2020. So that's how I know about her. What's she all about? Tammy Baldwin, official Senate, blah blah blah.
Infrastructure.
Polling.
Anyway, she's part of a big crucial race that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
Do you have any viewers? Do you have any comments you want to respond to? Because I've got nothing.
No, I do got 4 people in here. Make yourself known. Hello, hi. Please say hi. Interact with us. We would love to.
Please
hear
like,
from you.
share, and subscribe to help us grow.
Yes, yeah.
Please,
really
please. We don't have any sexy guests at this episode.
Yeah,
we gotta book just all the big boys, dude. We gotta get Sam Cedar up in this piece.
Oh man.
We gotta get Jimmy Dore next. That's the one I really want to nail down is Jimmy Dore, man.
He'll never do it, but can you imagine? Like.
I think I know how to feed his ego to get him to continue to ham himself, but
let's fucking go. Hi, Megan. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for making yourself known. Megan's a homegirl of mine. She's awesome. She's cool as shit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Cool. We actually
that's so wonderful.
actually got someone to comment. Yeah, that really happens.
Nice.
Let's see, what did I name this stream? Cohen testifies, Commencement protests, Israel bombs, evacuations, and more. See, what else was on the docket today? What happened over the weekend?
You want to hear Trey Gowdy?
Oh, what does this guy have to say?
He's working for Fox News now. I don't know. We're just making it up as we go.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, it's part of the Hillary Clinton investigation.
Trey Gowdy, and it's Sunday night in America. Israel is moving into Rafah despite threats from the Biden administration.
Oh my God.
As attempts by Hamas to negotiate are seen as a ploy to delay the Israeli offensive. Hamas still holds hostages, so if that group were really serious about a ceasefire, releasing hostages might be a good first step. Meanwhile, college campuses remain chaotic crime scenes. That doesn't bother the squad. Per usual, they side with the criminals and not the cops.
From GWU to WashU and everywhere else, students have been violently beaten without provocation. They have been arrested and charged with disproportionate offenses. They have been wrongfully smeared as anti-Semitic.
This is an explicit attempt to repress students exercising their First Amendment rights to protest their university's complicit actions in on behalf of Israeli government's genocide of Palestinians.
Is that wrong?
The squad remains a little out of step with President Biden, but honestly, he can be hard to pin down on exactly what his position is.
Violent attacks, destroying property, is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country. We're a civil society. We uphold the rule of law. And no one should have to hide or be brave just to be themselves.
Yeah.
He condemns violence, but he also condemns Israel, the lone democracy in the region actually seeking to deter more violence. Biden needs young voters to win, but he also knows images of lawlessness don't really appeal to undecided voters or really anyone other than anarchists. Moreover, Biden is threatening to withhold arms and munitions from Israel, but is willing to negotiate with Iran. The world has truly turned upside down.
As if he's not been.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Does this guy look like the kind of guy that knows a thing or two about the world?
He doesn't know the difference.
Does this guy look like someone you should really listen to?
He doesn't know the
difference.
I mean,
not to judge a book by its cover, but come on, man.
I mean, for one, like Biden himself, like he has literally been negotiating with Israel this entire fucking time, and all of a sudden he's like, because they're like, he's been giving them everything they want every step of the way. But the moment he says, like, don't go into Rafah, the last fucking safe zone in Gaza, where 1.5 million people are crammed into, almost, like that's just a step too far. Like not giving like Israel free reign to do whatever they want. This guy doesn't know the difference between his fucking elbow and his ass crack, dude. Like, what the fuck?
You want any more of this? I'm dumb. I don't want any more of that.
Yeah. It's so
Fox News is just so ugly.
Seriously.
God. I don't know, man. So, yeah, we talk a lot about the Middle East, what's going on domestically. I mean, the news was just dominated by Middle East, Ukraine. DA removes Rebecca Gross. I don't know. What did you have anything else you want to talk about? We can have a short one tonight if you want. Unless you got other stuff you want to talk about, blind faith Zionism. I mean, that's what we're dealing with, right? I mean, what's the big bad secret about? I feel like anxious to say that the power structures in our society are biased towards defending Israel in a blind faith way.
Yeah.
I mean,
it literally is.
Come on, like any well-educated person who has traveled the world and come across sleazy salesmen, sleazy politicians, especially guys who are just in it for themselves and don't really care about the cause. You telling me Netanyahu's not one of them?
Right.
You telling me this isn't? I mean, they haven't had an election since 2006, 18 years. What?
Yeah.
Come on, man. He's an ultra-conservative.
Yeah.
Conservatism is the problem, but guys like Netanyahu are the enemy.
Yeah. He thinks that he can get away with, like, it's literally, like, even watching, like, Israeli TV or clips from Israeli TV, you really get a sense that, like, the entire population, or at least the upper echelon, are the most spoiled, self-entitled, pampered pricks on the planet. They think that they are entitled to all the land, like all the Palestinian settlements, that they're entitled to just go in and take those over, like has been happening for years and years and years. Just, you can literally sign up. Like, if you have Jewish heritage, you can sign up right now. You can get a hold of your local Israeli consulate or whatever, and they will literally give you property in the West Bank or the Golan Heights now or whatever. It's settler colonialism. is what it comes down to. And this mindset that that's mine, gimme, it belongs to me, seems to be prescient all throughout Israeli society. Yeah. Like they're like children.
Yeah.
They're like little kids
with weapons.
Yeah,
with
weapons. No kidding. And like, how dare anybody stand up to them and tell them no? How dare anybody tell them no? You can't have that. It's sickening. And
I mean, conservatives exist in other countries, and it's clear to me that the harder right you are in Israel, the less tolerant you are going to be of the Palestinian state.
I mean, this isn't
and I saw speaking of polling, I saw a poll that was, "Are you supportive of Israel or Hamas?" I'm like, are you kidding me?
It's a false equivalence.
That's not the framing. That's not the right question. That's not a fair question.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about in a basic way. I don't really have a ton to offer. I don't really have a ton to offer the Middle East commentary because I think it's so complicated. I know a thing or two about the tenets of Islam, but ultimately I'm going to yield to the experts when it comes to anything Middle East.
Yeah.
I just think it's too complicated for a guy like me to weigh in on, except when something this egregious happens.
Yes.
And you've got a 24-to-1 death ratio in a military conflict.
Then
that's not a military conflict. That's a genocide.
Literally.
It's a genocide. And knowing the history of Israel to leverage their victimhood to justify their atrocities, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until Netanyahu's out of the way. I just don't think it's any more complicated than that. Right. It's just everyone keeps trying to make, stop. Yeah, okay, it's a religious conflict. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah, it sure does. It sure does.
Yeah.
And that's why the only thing that's going to make peace happen like this is an entire generation needs to say, okay, we are going to be better than every generation that has come before us.
Right.
We care more about our legacy than we do peddling our parents' propaganda.
Yeah.
Because our parents' propaganda was their parents' propaganda, was their parents' propaganda. Come on, man.
Right.
Grow up, like you're saying.
Yeah, like it could be, like obviously the geopolitics of the region is complex, but when it gets to a point where you're literally just eradicating the population for fun, and like it's well documented with thousands of examples out there, it becomes a very, very simple issue. Like there are literal concentration camps in Israel holding Palestinians prisoner right now. Like CNN fucking covered that shit. Like it's right there. Like the images are reflecting Auschwitz. So you mentioned.
Well, now, but you got to be careful. I think it's illegal to make a comparison between the Israeli government and the Third Reich. Now, you can get thrown in jail for that shit.
Yeah. I forgot about that. In that case, I was just being sarcastic. I was talking about Minecraft or
just
or
kidding,
something.
right?
Yeah. God damn. You mentioned a poll that was conducted about favorability of Israel versus Hamas. Where did you see that? I'm actually really curious.
I don't know. I heard someone talking about it. In fairness, I can't remember exactly. I didn't see the poll myself.
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing. Megan would also be interested in knowing how accurate the favorability polls are. But I do remember when October 7th happened, there were I forget who actually conducted it. I don't know if it was like the Palestinian, like someone within the Palestinian Authority or media or Al Jazeera or what. But Hamas was never popular. They were never popular in Gaza,
right.
And of course they have no jurisdiction in the West Bank. But they're asked about Hamas anyway. And if I'm not mistaken, when I heard about these polls, this was back in like October or November or something like that. Excuse me. the polls conducted before October 7th about the favorability of Hamas were low. But after the October 7th attack and the subsequent response from Israel,
right,
the support for Hamas in these regions went up double digits. Now, because now what that reads to me is their existence is now justified, even more so, because of the overreaction that they baited Israel into having.
Well, there's a majority in U.S. now disapprove of Israel action in Gaza. That was March 27th.
Yeah.
So that was 6 weeks ago. So it's only gotten... It's snowballing, man. I mean, stuff like this, it only lasts so long. Like the propaganda machine of the Israeli State Department is formidable. But ultimately, there are limits to its power.
Okay.
And I think you're starting to see the erosion of that power.
Yes.
And it starts with our students, man. Good for them. Kudos to the college kids. They get out there and they make a point. That's right, man. Make a point. The left can learn, like the old left can learn from this young left, because this was what you guys did with Vietnam. This is what some enlightened people did with Iraq.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what some people who never seem to get listened to.
On a long enough,
and you know why? It's because they don't think about life in terms of winning and losing. And in a capitalist society, if you don't think in terms of winning and losing in any context of professionalism, you're going to lose without even knowing it. Oh, I won the argument. Well, you lost the election, so who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, on a long enough timeline, we win. The truth always prevails. Like, you can only muddy the water.
I don't know if the truth always prevails, bro. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know what. A lot of people say we still don't know what happened with the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
So the truth doesn't always prevail. It sometimes stays quiet and unknown, but the truth is out there, according to the X-Files.
I guess a more accurate framing, I suppose, would be the search for truth always prevails. You know, the need to know the truth and like the actual truth. I don't know. I think that's probably a better framing.
I think history rewards those who pursue the truth.
Sure.
For example, everyone loves to make a big deal about Martin Luther King, justifiably so.
Yeah, of course.
He died for his cause, obviously.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about, that cause, while at the time it felt like it achieved success, it did not achieve the level of success that it needed to. And I'm sure that his hope and expectation was that the movement would grow and achieve more legislation. But as it happens in American culture, all the white people with race, all they want to do is this.
Yeah.
Don't have to talk about race anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about being racially sensitive. Well, actually, you do. And people say, "Oh, well, you know, minorities have to think about being racially sensitive too." It's like they already do. They have to do that at work.
Yeah. What do you think they've been dealing with, like, for the past?
They've been adapting.
They've
been adapting while we've been staying the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Pretty
kidding.
much.
Yeah, and that goes for like any movement too. Like it's never like there's always going to be some sort of new flare up. You know, like not everything's going to be like immediately resolved. Like we got like for example like the Clean Air Act under Nixon, and we got the creation of the EPA. But ever since its founding, it's just like continuously being stripped away by Republican legislature, like and their politicians and shit. So it's a never ending thing. Like you have to keep fighting. Like as jaded as like a lot of people are, like a lot of people don't understand. Like it's a consistent effort. It is a constant thing. Like there's something you're going to have to always be fighting. You know, it's an endless war. You know.
Well, the good news is that I think yeah, I mean, just to round out that whole truth and history relationship, they say that in order to write history about something, it has to have happened at least 20 years ago to have an historical judgment.
Okay.
Which makes sense to me because you can cast an historical judgment on the Iraq War as a huge mistake.
Big time.
And we were starting to realize that about 20 years ago. You know, after we had been in there for a year, we're like, oh shit, we're going to have to rebuild this country now that we just bombed the shit out of it. Like, yeah, that's going to cost a lot of time and money. I read somewhere it was like $100,000. At one point in the Iraq War, it was $100,000 per soldier per day, which I found, I don't know. That's yeah, I don't know if that's true. It might have been like just soldiers who were like in the field vulnerable to being killed, like that kind of thing. Might have been one of those statistics. But I would believe that. I would believe that if there were like for every soldier that was in harm's way, you know, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, that war was just an obscene waste of money.
Yeah, it checks out because I think that added like what $7 trillion to the debt or something like that.
Yeah,
crazy
but
numbers.
Trump even outdid that in 4 years.
Yeah, no, he did.
Trump
like,
even outdid that in 4 years. It's such a disgrace.
No kidding.
It's such a disgrace. We'll talk about a crazy solution that I have someday. I don't know if I'm not willing to go public with it yet.
Okay.
But it's a crazy idea. I don't know. It's kind of, it'll come across as heartless, but
the suspense.
The way it's gonna be. I don't know if I'm ever gonna go public. I might take it to the grave. I'm like the New England Patriots coaching staff about a few late season decisions there against the Eagles in that Super Bowl. We're all curious about. So anyway, do we want to cover anything else, man? I'm down. We were about an hour, so I'm cool with wrapping it up. Unless you got anything else you want to talk about.
I guess closing thoughts. Speaking on like the pursuit of truth and like how I think the pursuit of truth is like the ultimately like what matters most when it comes to changing minds and getting people on board with making positive changes and whatnot. Like it takes brave people who understand like how their actions or their country's actions, like, because some people represent their country, like Chelsea Manning, for example. They understand like we're slaughtering civilians in the name of freedom, in the name of military might, and this shouldn't be stood for by anybody. And that's what I mean. Just the revelations that were made about the Iraq War are what turned the tides of opinion against what we were doing.
Time,
you know, yeah. It takes time, and I think with time, like I hate the fact that it's probably going to take a long time, but this was such a gigantic and egregious, atrocious thing, unspeakable thing that Israel has engaged in and committed, that it's there's no way to ignore it. There's no way not to address it. There's no way not to study it, learn from it, you know, for years and years to come. It's going to leave a permanent stain on the history textbooks. That's for sure. And we'll see if, you know, if the reaction to it improves, the reaction to what Israel is doing puts, you know, paints Israel's longtime supporters in a better light, for lack of a better phrasing, because there's a lot of people who like staunch Israel allies and supporters and whatnot that have been either ignoring or excusing what they're doing. That needs to change, and I hope it changes sooner than later, because history is not going to look back on these people kindly. Even though we do write the history books, we could just frame it however the fuck we want. So.
Yeah, well, the good news is that if America is writing the history books, then the youth of this country has a much different perspective on this particular leadership of Israel. I mean, the reason why I think a lot of these college students are getting so active is because they've studied the history, especially the recent history, just the facts of what has happened since Netanyahu's been in power. And they're like, this guy is a crook, and he's corrupt, and he's in with bed with the media people, and it's so obvious. So anyway, for Stateless Patriot, I'm Dieter McBusiness, and we're reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
Wanted to thank everybody for joining in. I've had like maybe 5 or 6 consistent viewers the past like maybe half hour.
Nice.
Thank you all so much. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Go over to American Wasp with Dieter McBusiness. Make sure you subscribe to his channel as well. We should be doing this around the same time again on Wednesday. Make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for joining in, you guys.
You don't get change in America by asking nicely.